Greetings, fellow humans. Welcome to this episode of Arduino for Dummies. I'm doing a walkthrough of the book, and this time we're looking at Chapter 5, which is called Tools of the Trade. It's a short chapter. It just touches on some of the things we're going to be using to do Arduino builds. And before we get started, I'd just like to apologize for the audio on some of the clips. When I originally shot them, I wasn't using a very good mic, so it's going to be a little bit crackly and the volume's kind of uneven, but hopefully it's not too bad. Anyway, let's roll into it. First thing in this chapter is the breadboard. So let's take a look. This is the one that I got in my kit. I haven't even opened it yet. I'm looking at the breadboard. And I have scanned ahead a little bit in the book to see what's coming up. And my understanding of how the breadboard works is that each one of these little numbered rows, all of the holes that are in the same row on the same side of the board are connected inside. So if you have any two things that are plugged into one of these holes on the same row, that part of the circuit will be complete. If you want to make a connection between different rows, you have to use something that will bridge that gap. Next on the supply list is jump wires. My kit came with a nice bundle of jump wires. Most of them are pretty short. There's a few long ones, but the breadboard's pretty small. I don't think I'm going to need a lot of long wires to work with this. Pulled a couple of them out to take a closer look. All the ones in the kit have a nice end on them for working with the breadboard. So just push it in, and you can feel it lock in place when you put it in one of the holes. Pretty easy to work with. It's snug enough that it's not going to pop out accidentally as long as you're gentle with it. But when you're done with that, they come out pretty easily. Nice. Next on the supply list is a multimeter. I picked this one up on Amazon for about 30 bucks, and it's pretty cheap. It's one of the cheaper ones that they sell. I did some reading before I ordered it. The pros recommend you either go fairly expensive or really cheap, and I decided to go really cheap. This is the first multimeter I've ever owned. I don't even know how to use it yet. I figured I would just use this one until it stops working, and then I'll decide if I want to buy a better quality one next time. So, according to the Dummies book, the things our multimeter has to do, it has to measure voltage, which this one does. It has to measure current in amps, which this one also does. It has to measure resistance in ohms. This one does that. It has to check continuity, and this one also does that. So my next test is to try measuring resistance using the multimeter on one of these 20K resistors. So I have already set the multimeter to the resistance setting, and now all I should have to do is put each probe on the opposite end of the resistor, and then we should get our reading. I know I should probably take this out of the package, but everything's still neat and tidy. I don't want to make a mess of the kit just yet. After all, we haven't even started building anything yet. Look at that. Oh, I had a connection there for a second. 20.0. Perfect. Just what it should be. It's hard to see, but up above it does say K ohms, so it is 20,000 ohms. Just what the package said. I picked up a package of alligator clips. These cost me about $5. Couldn't find the ones that had the wires already attached, but these will probably be fine. I'll just take 2 wires out of my kit and screw them into these clips, and that should do the trick. So, bad news. I took a couple wires out of my kit and I tried to just stuff them in here and use them. But, unfortunately, these little plastic nibs that make them really convenient to use on our breadboard make these particular wires not very well suited to go into the alligator clip. So, I found this thing stuck in a drawer. I think it came with probably my motherboard, and I'm never going to use this. I've got a bunch of junk like this hanging around. So I think what I'm going to do is chop this up for the wires and see if I can use them to thread through these alligator clips. So let me chop those up and then we'll see if it works. I've got one of these together. I've got one more left. I don't know why I used yellow. I should have used red and black, and then it would have matched the multimeter prong colors. But it was a pain in the ass to get this together, and I'm not taking it apart just because I don't like the color choice. Inside these wires, it's that braided stuff, and as soon as you take the casing off, it kind of flares out, and it's really hard to feed it through the little hole that it has to go through in the alligator clip before you wind it around the screw. So I'm going to finish this one up, and I really hope it works because this sucks. I've got my alligator clips done. I've connected them to the leads on the multimeter. So let's see what happens if I've got the multimeter set to the continuity test. So it should beep when I connect this wire to the ends of the alligator clips. And we've got a connection. So now I've got my own homemade set of alligator clips. Yay! Last item the book mentions is having a pair of Needlenose pliers. I picked these ones up from a hardware store for about $7 or $8. Hopefully these will be good for working with the little components that we use for our builds. If not, I'll just find something else, but these should be good enough to start with. End of chapter. You go now.